Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan, and that is all you're getting today, because Hunter happens to be feeling a little bit under the weather, and I didn't really want to push this off. Tonight we're going to be reviewing Marching Order, which is a solo or co-op game anyway, so you're getting me solo. That is... What's that? Well, me and my 16-ounce Red Bull, because I got working a little bit. So that is what's going to happen tonight. And we do happen, because for those in podcast land that don't know, we do stream this on Twitch. We do have Crumbling Keep, the creators of Marching Order, in chat right now. So if I fuck something up real bad while I'm reading through it, they can correct me. So for those that do have not and might watch this while we're playing, we have a huge reading. I just woke up. We have a huge giveaway going on right now. Crumbling Keep happened to send us literally everything that they've made for Marching Order. So my green screen does not like me today. But we have the box set, the Mud and Blood edition of the core game, the Rogue's Handbook and the Delver's Guide. We have Masters of the Onyx Tower, which is a big old delve for Marching Order. And we have, currently funding on Indiegogo right now, the Quick and Dirties #1, or first edition Quick and Dirties. It's 3 small delves for Marching Order. All of this can be yours if you're live now, because if you're listening on podcast, you fucking missed it. If you just go to our Twitter and like the tweet that says like this tweet to win. You just have to like it so that I have a track of who you are. It's not the whole like, tweet, share thing. I fucking hate that stuff, but I gotta track you somehow. So just like the tweet. And you'll be entered, and then at the end of the stream you'll get to do that. Yeah, so let's get cracking, because Hunters are not here. We're not going to do our normal kind of fuckery. I don't know what name he would have used today. Sick boy. But that is it. So as I said last week, we're not really doing Kickstart the podcast anymore. Just because we're both trying to save money and a little bit of time on the show. Sometimes it would take us like 45 minutes and we'd go over like 6 projects. Not doing that. Maybe we'll do a special episode again during Zine Quest or Zemo, but we'll see. But we are switching to, I don't know what to call it, Spotlight, tip of the hat, a little nod, something that says, hey, this is cool. You should check it out, whether it's a new project or a bit of news or something like that. One of the projects that I wanted to talk about recently is called Trespasser. Let me kick over to that window real quick. So Trespasser is a tactical action, old school themed, dark fantasy tabletop role playing game. It's currently free and playtest version on itch. The creator's name is Tendulis. I want to make sure that I say that correctly. It's Tundalis, Tundalus. But if you literally just search Trespasser itch.io on fucking Google, you're gonna find it. This is just a really neat looking game. Like I said, it's still in playtest, and it's free, which is ridiculous because it's in its current form is pretty badass. The inspirations, just to give you a little bit, are D&D 4th edition, because it does say, the cover does say Dark Fantasy Tactics, which is interesting. It's D&D 4th edition, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Darkest Dungeon, Dark Souls, Divinity, Black Hat, Cairn, 13th Age, a lot of stuff. But just giving you a little read on what it says here. Trespasser is a tabletop role-playing game about Peanuts turned adventurers carving out a safe refuge amid the long collapse of their dying world. That reminds me of Helm just a bit. Designed for player-driven sandbox campaigns of survival and dungeon crawling, Trespasser borrows themes of early tabletop and pairs them with tactical combat system inspired by 4th edition. I'm a fan of 4th edition. I loved that it felt like a game. I know people at the time weren't a huge fan. I think there's been a little bit of a renaissance towards it lately. For a tactics-driven game, this is definitely lends a little bit towards that. If you admire the principles of old school gaming, but also enjoy picking character options and pushing minis around a grid, Trespasser might be for you. It says there's a lightweight core with rich variety, less than 20 pages of combat, but it's designed to keep the players engaged and emphasizes party coordination, abilities on the battlefield, leave behind clouds of smoke, lasting obstacles, all sorts of stuff. So you can shower the field with cinders so your ally can slide an enemy across them, freeze an enemy in a block of ice, all sorts of stuff. Random character generation, weird builds. It's just a really, really interesting document. It's pretty beefy too. And in its current form, the layout looks beautiful as well. Check out some of these pages. It's 2 columns, some public domain art, but really love the way it looks. It's really clean. It's got some nice page accents on it already. It's just a really, really nice looking document. It's only version 1.2. I don't know how long the creator has been working on it. But goodness, if this was my first draft of anything, I would be quite happy. But it is downloadable. And when you do, you get the playtest version, character sheets, peasant sheets, stronghold sheets, table reference, pre-made characters, tons of stuff. Yeah, I would definitely check this out if I were you. It's a really, really neat project, and I can only imagine if this actually became, pay for this. It should cost money. It's a decent sized document, and fucking cool. I would love to see this in print. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. I really hope the creator keeps going with this and that it just doesn't stop here. And that's it. That is Trespasser. So that's all we're going to spotlight, highlight, whatever today. So we're going to get into marching order. So, marching order. Let's kick right into the review screen. Nope, that's not the one. There we go. That's the one right there. Yeah. So, marching order. If you hear me delay a little bit, it's to read chat since I'm going solo today, much like you can in marching order. Sometimes I will need to pause to take a sip and a break, and Hunter will not be here to fill the void. And again, we don't edit the podcast. You get the milk straight from the cow. So first off, right off the bat, I absolutely love the art for this. We talked about it. Also, if you're listening to this, go to the last episode and listen to our interview, my interview with the guys from Crumbling Keep, James and Brad. Super cool guys. It was great to talk with him. I think our interview lasted like 2 hours, which is one of the longest ones we've done. Didn't feel that way. It was really neat. Got a lot of insight into marching order, both in its current state and the future that it holds. But one of the things we talked about a lot was the artist. This is, and I hope I get it right, Mustafa Bakir. It is the same artist that does a lot of the art for Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. Let me... I actually want to... you know what? I will actually just real quick download the other cover so I can show those that aren't in podcast land what both versions on the front look like. I'm just going to go to Delver's Guide, Pages. Let's download that real quick out of the Dropbox. So this cover you're currently seeing right now is the Rogue's Handbook. So this is basically the player options and stuff like that. The other book that you get with it is the Delver's Guide, which is delves for you to actually play. The adventures in this game are delves. Its marching order is... I don't remember the tagline that James used beside its rogues fucking around doing rogue shit. But basically it's a choose your own adventure mixed with like Darkest Dungeons. And it really does feel that way. So the front cover is this really cool perspective where you're looking over the heads of 3 adventurers, basically like a knight, kind of a mage, and another character. They're looking down a hallway towards a group of armed goblins. But if you actually open up the Delver's Guide, it is the other perspective. It is actually from the goblin side at the bottom of the page, looking forward towards the same party, the 3 characters at the other end of the this corridor. So really fucking cool detail, really awesome. Just a really nice touch between the 2 books and a really great way to kind of tie the 2 books together. Stunning, beautiful art. Really, really enjoy the style that Mustafa has. And as we talked about in the interview, I can't imagine a different artist. I think the style of art that they use really, really fits the style of the game incredibly well. So yeah, again, really fun perspective. Goblins facing adventures on one of the books, and adventures facing the same goblins on the other book. So cool little detail, which can be in your hands right now if you just go enter the giveaway, because I will be giving both away as part of the giveaway this evening. So go check that out. So just getting started here. This is the Mud and Blood edition. I read this in pages, not spreads, but there are some great spreads in the book. It's just easier on the old stream here. So that's where you're going to get some of them are going to be split. So Marching Order Mud and Blood Edition, as I said, put out by the guys at Crumbling Keep. It is James Crane and Brad Kishbaugh. So right off the bat, a couple of things. You know me, if you've watched the show at all, I'm a huge fan of digital tools in PDFs. It's 2022. I know a lot of people like reading pages, like actual having the things in their hands. I really like having the things in my hand, but I also love having it on my phone or my iPad or my computer, because this is where I'm sitting a lot of the time. And sometimes it's a lot easier for me to look at things digitally, because I have to have 3 things in front of me at a time to get anything done. But do we have bookmarks? We do, in fact, have tons of bookmarks. And I already know that for the most part, all of this is hyperlinked. As I've said over and over again, I really want to put out a piece of merch that has, like, if you're listening, you can't tell this, but you own a computer probably. If you scroll over a hyperlink, your cursor turns into a little hand. I want to get like a weekly scroll, logo with a cursor turned into a hand, so it looks like it's hyperlinked. Because I love me some hyperlinks. So again, the table of contents is completely hyperlinked, which is fantastic. Starts with a warning. You got an introductory section. You got a welcome to Rot Bottom section. You got Quasar Gambling Hall, which we'll go over, and then you go into the How to Delve section, which covers like combat and all of those kind of things, the rest phases. There's some references in the back. We got some credits here. Like I said, James Crane, Brad Kishbaugh, Consulting designer Julia Vogt. Character and cover art is Mustafa Bakir. Definitely didn't fuck that up, so that's great. Some editors, playtesters, really great. There is, so this is called The Standoff by Mustafa Bakir. What is the other one called then? Is it also called The Standoff? I don't think I actually looked. Let's go back to the Delver's Guide real quick. Scroll down just a touch to the credit section. And this is called Living in a Goblin's Paradise. That is what the Delver's Guide art, the antithesis piece, looks like. This says, I always thought I would die in some shithole, but I didn't think it'd be this shithole. Shut up, said the wizard. I'd rather be at the front of this line than listen to you bitch for another moment. That can be arranged, the sellsword yelled back, his grip tightened around his sword as he stared down 4 approaching goblins, their mouths frothing with determination. So one of the things that's really great through the entire book, and I really love, is the narrative voice in the way that James writes. It's very, I know I said tongue-in-cheek, but if it's tongue-in-cheek, your cheek is shooting right through the side of your mouth, because it's pretty in-your-face fun. There's a content warning in the beginning, which is great. You know, I'm fucked up, so I love this stuff. But if someone does happen to peek in this and doesn't, let's just say it might not be for everybody. So the content warning says, getting serious for just a moment, marching order contains content that may be harmful for some individuals. While it is mostly written in a humorous tone, the following in their text and or may come up through play: animal death, animal violence, blood, body horror, corpses, bones, death, drug use, drinking, emotional abuse, food, mental illness, poisoning, skeletons, spiders, swearing, verbal abuse, violence, vomit, and weapons. Yeah, sounds like marching order. So again, it's great that it's in here. You know, we're big fans of content warnings and advisories on safety tools and things like that. So it's really great that it is in here, whether you need it or not. And if you don't, just keep scrolling. So yeah. So getting into this, it says, we don't do it for glory. Want to make sure spreads wise. It says, nay, we do not do it for love nor for good. We do it, monsieur, for the coin. We'll go into your dungeon, but you'll need to keep us in drink and in good standing with the brothels. Welcome to Marching Order, a game of dungeon crawling rogues, backstabbing, and coin. You'll take your party through cramped hallways and claustrophobic tunnels and test your mettle against the monsters in the dark. Bring your torches and bandages, find your place in line, and try not to die. It's best to keep one of your allies between you and the hordes. So this is, as I said, it's a solo and co-op tabletop game. Solo and we'll get to that in the rules a little bit. But when we actually get to what the marching order is and why it super makes sense, it's called marching order. It's a really, really interesting mechanic, and it really pulls in that Darkest Dungeon vibe. Even though James, by his own admission, has never played Darkest Dungeon. So to kick it off, there is a glossary of terms. I'm not going to really get through this. This is kind of one of those things where, you know, if you've never really played a tabletop game, this is really good for you to read. If you have, it's okay to skim through. It's just a little explanation of a lot of the things that you'll find in the game, you know, like what attack rolls means, which isn't just a regular... It's a good thing to have in the beginning because... You know, there are times in the game specifically where this one asks for rolls versus attack rolls, and they are different. So that's good to know. Allies active. Bullshit dice, which are fabulous. The bullshit dice is rolled. We'll get to that turn later. But just know there's bullshit dice in the game, if that tells you anything about the game as we continue on through this. Coin. Hope you know what that means. There's condition dice that are like cooldown dice, both of which also are core mechanics in the game, and we'll go over those as we go through. And then there's the styles in which conditions are written, which, again, we'll go through in a little bit. Just know, I should keep a counter of how many times it says these do not reset between encounters for conditions and cooldown dice and stuff like that. If I remember, that's one. Here, let's have a post-it note. I'm going to take a pen and write this down. So... I think it's a little important to know that, considering I'm keeping a timer and I've read this book. or a counter. So creatures are things, delves, enemies. Half rolls are interesting. Sometimes a half roll is called for. In this case, roll a 6-sided die and divide the result by 2, always rounding up. I'm curious. I was curious when I read that if the math works out all the time, as opposed to just saying, 1 and 2 is 1, 3 and 4 is 2, 5 and 6 is 6, or, et cetera, et cetera. I guess it would have to be, right? So say you have a 5, 2.5 goes to 3, a 5 and a 6. Yeah, should work. I'm fucking terrible at math. This is why I like rules light games. So rest phase, rogue, rolls, stats. I think we're still in the glossary, so we're gonna go over that later. Price, physical, defense, health, magic. You got a lot of. I will say there are a decent number of things to keep track of, but not too many. Traits, qualities, flaws, all this stuff we'll go over in a little bit. But I love the very bottom of the kind of glossary page is a cat, but also a baby. And it's just above it, there's like a yelling voice bubble that says boring. I'm a fan. So then you get into a stack of coins and it says starting your party. Enough of the word learning. You're here to delve into the dark and get rich, ain't ya? Well, you know what they say, you gotta spend coin to make coin. Let's get going. Again, the narrative voice throughout the game is really fantastic. I really like that the game is written, or the rules of the game, the language that the game uses is written in a narrative voice as opposed to just a rules text. It feels like some grumpy old rogue that's done it before is talking to you as you go through the book, kind of explaining it to you, but also kind of giving you shit the whole time too. And it's a good idea to listen. So yeah. So there are 3 steps. No, I'm sorry, 4, 5 steps to getting set up to get going in your party. So the first step is setting up your game. You should have a few components in this package. The book you're reading, which is core rule books, a deck of cards. These are your little quick reference for all the rogues and enemies. It's great that there are cards. One of the things I really like about this game is that it's a fucking game. Actually, if you sign up for the Crumbling Keep newsletter, you'll get, not only do you get daily content, but it's like you get shit daily. And I believe I read it right before stream. Today's was about games being games. That role-playing games are great. I love role-playing. It's cool. But I really like games too. Like games that feel like games. Like not everything has to be a fucking simulation. Like I don't care if something doesn't make sense in reality. I have never played Monopoly and been upset. Well, no, Monopoly is not a good thing because oligarchs do rule the world. But you know what I mean? I've never played a board game and been upset that it didn't mimic reality, right? This is a game. If you want to play a simulation, just go fucking LARP. Like, there are rules for a reason. It's because it's a game. Okay? So not everything has to be based in reality. If it makes sense in the game, just follow the rules and keep going. So I like that this feels like a game, and it kind of has to, because it is a solo game. So there has to be procedures, there has to be a little bit more. It can't be as freeform, because you have to be, if it's just you, and then you're making up everything on the other side too, you're basically just playing with Barbies, right? Because there's no process or procedure to guide you through against yourself. right? There has to be processes, there has to be, procedures, there has to be gaminess to it. And I really enjoyed that about this. I love that there are cards and battle sheets and all sorts of stuff. Oh, hi. For those in podcast land that do not remember, we do stream this live on Twitch, and one of my favorite people in the whole world, the Mother of Jedi, Jedi Mama herself, just raided me. Thank you so much, Jedi Mama. Papa Jedi's in there too. It has been way too long. I appreciate the resubs and follows from all of that. They are absolutely wonderful people. If you happen to be on Twitch, please go follow the Mother of Jedi and Sith Daddy himself, Papa Jedi. Thank you so much for the raid, guys. It has been way too long. We definitely need to touch base and do something sooner than later. You guys are fantastic. Today we are going over Marching Order, which is a solo or co-op dungeon delving games for rogues doing rogue shit. So again, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate the raid. So, getting back into it, what was I saying? Oh, it's a game. It doesn't have to be completely 100% based on reality. Let's go from there. So that's setting up the game. That's what you have. So one thing I will say about some of the hyperlinks, there are a couple of missing. And one thing that I would do in this PDF is any of the addresses, like the URLs, are not hyperlinked. So there is a link here for the like character sheets. It says go to crumblingkeep.com/marchingorder/sheets. I would just throw a hyperlink on that. That way people can click it and go directly to it. But it's one of the very few spots where there's not a hyperlink, so not too big of a ding as far as that goes. Step 2, get your coin. So this is fun. As I said, this is a solo or co-op game. It's between 1 and 4 players. So you buy rogues, and you get a certain amount of coins per the number of players you have, because you basically get, for 1 player, you get 4 rogues, right? For 4 players, each of you get 1 rogue. So there's always basically 4 rogues in a party, which is a great number. It's a classic party makeup, especially if you design your party around, like, controller, striker, defender, leader, those kind of things. I don't think the classes really necessarily feed into those archetypes at all. And I don't think they really need to at all, but 4 is classic. Feels good. So for 1 player, you get 500 coins. For 4 rogues, 2 players get 250 for 2 rogues each, this is. 3 players get 150 each for 1 rogue, and 4 get 150. The only thing that's a little bit different and off on this, not off, but 3 doesn't really divide super great. So buying your rogues, once you start, it might be tempting to buy the most expensive rogue. So rogues cost money. Like the more badass the rogue is, the more expensive they are. But as you play and earn more coin, you can buy more rogues. You can have like a pack of them if you want. Just a tip. I love this stuff. Just a tip from a veteran of delving. You might want to pick up some anti-venom and torches for that first delve. You probably need some other things, but I can't ruin all the fun, can I? That's not the only time the book says the first delve has anti-venom and torches. So you should probably get fucking anti-venom and torches, because not only are you buying rogues, you're stashing them, you're stocking them for the delve itself. 3-player game. This is what I wanted to get to. So you got yourself a 3-player game, huh? Well, you need 4 rogues, and 3 doesn't divide into 4 real well. Rather than listen to you all whine about who gets the extra body, you get the construct, capital C, for your 4th rogue instead. Got a problem with that? Get another friend. Or tell one to get lost. I'm too hungover for this shit. I fucking love this game. Like, again, like the narrative voice throughout the whole thing, I love. Not a lot of games are written like this as a rules text. I think a lot of people feel very, I don't want to say sterile, but don't really write with the concept of like the narrative, like as if someone's telling you how to describe the game instead of you reading it. And I really love it, especially this one. Like I said, just tongue in cheek, just it's really great. The tone is fantastic. So yeah. So the construct works like a monster. When it gets to its action phase, you roll dice and see what it does. There's a lot of AI based in this game, which I really enjoy. My personal game that I've been working on for a while has a similar concept to it. So when I read this, I was like, yes, someone's done it before, and it works. So it really gave me inspiration to keep going with the part that that's similar to something that I'm working on, which is fantastic. No, I mean, theirs is fantastic. I don't know about mine. The rest of it's turn. If it dies, you get a new one when you get out of the delve. That's it. So basically, you get what amounts to a monster on your side if you only have 3 players. So fleshing out your rogue. Now that you get your rogues, it's time to flesh them out. You can name them if you want. It might be handy to have something to put on their tombstone. The game play, it doesn't feel like a funnel. But your rogues are gonna fucking die. I mean, there's no way around it. Sorry, don't get too attached. They're gonna die. So if you want to name them, that's fine. You know, I can't imagine the naming conventions that people go through, because honestly, if it was like Bob 1, Bob 2, Bob 3, Bob 4, and you just kept going that way, you got to like Bob 69, that would crack me the fuck up. Or, you know, people can do what they want. You can have Jimmy, and when they die, Jimmy Jr. goes in after him, you know? But yeah. So take a look at their actions. One is labeled basic action. That's a freebie action you're stuck with. After that, take a look at the other ones. They're all really cool, but you only get to pick one to start with. You put a little check mark in the box next to the name so you can remember which one you have. If you want more of them, you can pay to get trained once you have some coin. So there is some character progression within the rogues. You have basic stuff, and then you get to kind of buy into more abilities as you play through the game. And then next you're going to take care of your traits. You don't get to pick these. Whatever god your rogue believes in, gifted or cursed him with the abilities of birth. No one ever said the dungeon life was fair. So you roll a dice for your qualities. Whichever one you get, write it in the bottommost box in your bullshit section. Again, I fucking love that there's a bullshit mechanic in this game. It feels very true to the marching order. Put that one in the topmost box in your bullshit. Oh, your flaw. So flaws go at the top. 6s are flaws. 1 are qualities, right? Like the traits, like it goes top to bottom. I think I'm right on that. James is in here. But we'll get to it when we go over the character sheet as well. And then congrats, you made a rogue. Good job. Next is shopping. You get to do a whole shopping episode right when you start. This is it. After this step, you're ready to go. So there is a, I'm sorry. James says that I'm fucking wrong, and it is reversed. Flaws go bottom. Good stuff goes top. So you shop. Rot bottom. So rot bottom is a within marching order. There is an expanding world lore. One of the core places, kind of like your base, right? Is Rot Bottom. It's this town. The way James described it earlier, again, you can go listen to the interview in the previous episode, is basically, war was near to Rot Bottom, so they hired a ton of mercenaries to come to the town to make sure that it didn't spill over into their town. It never spilled over, but the town spent all their coin on these mercenaries. The mercenaries ended up settling in the town, kind of fucking around. And then the next generation of these mercs were their spawn, if you will, kind of grew up in this in Rot Bottom with not a whole lot to do or going on. And they ended up as rogues and ruffians and general rakes and rastabouts, I guess. So that is where you are, what you are, and things like that. So how do you get coin to potentially get out of town or do something different? You go delve for stuff. So that is Rot Bottom, which, again, the delves are interesting. They're fun, but as more are coming out, it's going to keep expanding the lore of the world, which is really fucking cool. I really enjoy that. I love that it's not just some like massive lore dump right off the bat. And whether it was intentional or not, I really like that the game started relatively, I don't want to say simply, but like you get what you need to play the game and enough lore to kind of get you invested. But as the delves are going and future delves that we talked about, they're getting more and more complicated. So it kind of feels like if you play it, as things come out, it gets slowly more and more, not complicated, but like in depth. So out of, once you get through the Delver's Guide, then you move into Onyx Tower. It's a more in-depth, kind of complicated, but not in a bad way, delve. Then you get the quick and dirties, and there's some other delves that are coming out. They're going to be more like procedurally generated and bigger, and have a lot more, paths within them. Because as I said, it's kind of choose your own adventure style. I really, really enjoy that there's like a ramp up of kind of everything. Added rules, added lore, expansions, everything. So if you start from the beginning, you get this kind of like slow increase, and it feels like it's digestible, so that you aren't overwhelmed right at the beginning with a fucking 600-page book with 300 pages of it being lore. You don't need it. You don't need it for this game, but it's fun to get it over time. So it's really neat. I really enjoy that. You do the shit for coin, right? Coin is another story, though. Coin belongs to a player, not a rogue. Players can spend coins on any of the rogues or use to buy a new rogue altogether. It might not be fair, but hey, that's life. The other thing, I can't remember the game that we talked about it. I think it was maybe Sacrifice from Black Oath. Technically, it can be a 2-player game or more, but the way it was written, right at the beginning where it says like 2-player game, throughout the rest of it, and I think some of the language was, it's kind of based on, I think the first edition open game license. So party is used a lot. So it kind of, the rules language tells you how to play the game and can infer a lot of things. So as I was reading that one, there's parts where you're just like, where you kind of feel like party is the way to go. Even though it does say in the beginning that like, it's honestly meant for just 2 people. Like you're supposed to be a lone warrior. You're basically fucking guts. The way that this one's written though, I don't feel like it does it nearly as much. It doesn't really talk about party as much. It really just says rogue and rogues and player separate. Because again, it can be a solo game, and you can be the characters, you can be the rogues if you want, or you can just be controlling the rogues. So it's well delineated in the way that this is written. So one of the other things I really love is, and this is a big one, inline hyperlinks. Chef's kiss, James. And Brad, they are wonderful. I can't remember. I think there was a page where one was missing, and I should have wrote it down for you. But for the most part, if it says you can find the rogues on page 62, you can click on that, and it will take you to page 62, which is in a PDF. The ability to navigate, especially at the table quickly. Again, this one's a little different because it's a solo game. You don't have a bunch of players waiting on you. And even if you are playing with other players, you're all players. There's no DM. It's still a really, really great way to navigate the PDF. And I really enjoy that a lot. There's so the other thing throughout the book is there's art, right? So Mustafa Bakir did the cover art, and again, that feels very I'm scrolling too fucking much. I'm gonna get people sick. It feels very marching order, as I said. Then there's a lot of other art illustrations throughout the book from either, I think it's public domain or various other sources. So there is a little bit of variety, but maybe I don't necessarily call it inconsistency in some of the art styles used in the book. But it is a little bit different sometimes with pages to pages, or like this spread right here with like a piece of art in the back that I believe looks computer generated. I could be wrong. but it is darker. So we're opening into another section that says welcome to Rot Bottom. As I said before, this is kind of the core base of operations for rogues within marching order. So Rot Bottom services. You're itching to get into the dungeon. I get it. Trust me. After you leave it, you'll keep itching for weeks. There won't be a bath or a sawbones that can fix it, but I digress. Before you go, you'll need equipment. Thankfully, Rock Bottom General Store has all the things an adventurer needs, and a good few they don't. I got a tip that there might be some dark rooms and venomous creatures on your first delve. I'd shop appropriately. I believe that's the second time that very clearly in the rules text, it says get anti-venom and get torches. So again, should probably do that. I like the way that it's reinforced. Another piece of art here. Looks like a wizard, sage-ish looking person with a roguish looking person drinking beer over some food. And then you got a lot of services here in Rot Bottom. There's a table of service cost and descriptions. So you can do things like recoup, which heals 1d6 health between adventures and restores all spent luck. Basically, this is a way to reset. If you survive, get out, you want to recoup, doesn't cost you anything, you just get to hang out. You can get drinks at an inn, you can get room at an inn, all these things give you different healing. Drinks is 1d6 of health, room at the inn is 2d6 of health. You can get some training, some life coaching, carousing. You can even resurrect a character for 500 coins. I mean, if you're high enough level after you've done enough delves, that it would be kind of shitty to start over from scratch, I would say go ahead and resurrect. But if you're low level, man, rogues are fucking expendable, clearly. But a lot of these are funny. So training with 50 coin gives you another action type on your character sheet. That's what we said about advancement. This is definitely a game of everything is coin. The whole point is to go in the dungeon to get coin. So there's not XP per se. But clearly coin is what gives you advancement, right? Life coaching gets rid of a negative trait, and training lets you add actions. So this is kind of the way in which you can advance your character. It's all about them Benjamins. There is, I believe this is the carousing table. No. Which table is this? Oh, this is a carousing table. Oh, I'm an idiot. So I'm looking at it in spreads. So no, I'm not. Am I? Yeah, it's a carousing table and I'm just looking at it in spreads like a jackass. So, you got to, let's just scroll down to the carousing table. Roll the dice 3 times and add them together for your carousing result. Let's go with 13. So the doctor left their bag unattended when they get up to piss. Gain 2 healing potions. Number 17. I think I'm in love. Fellows, gain the following quality. The quality is for my beloved. Gain the condition inspired, +2 in brackets and a 3 in parentheses. When we go over conditions, I'll explain what that means. If you already have this quality, gain 4d6 coin instead. And on that other page, if you roll a 3, how much did I drink? You lose an additional 1d6 coins. 4, he was a fine lay, but he gave me the itch. Lose 2 health. Hey, Marison, 20 months, dude. Thank you so much for the resub. I think you'd get a kick out of this game. Marching Order from Crumbling Keep. Rot Bottom General Store. This is more of things you can buy. 11, we're good. Alchemist Fire, +2 to physical attacks. That's 25 coins. There's also slot values for things, how much space they take up. Anti-venom. I think you should get that early on. Removes a poison condition, single use. Caltrips, healing potions, holy water, pickaxes, tinker's tools. Oh, look, a torch. Should probably get some of those. They're pretty important and they don't last super long. So you'll light your way in the dark. You should grab some of those. Quasar Gambling Hall. So there's some fun games, like gambling games within the system, which honestly, I would have been disappointed if there weren't, because it's kind of a fuck around town full of rogues with a potentially a bunch of coin when they finish a delve. And I mean, rogues aren't necessarily, I don't think they're putting it in the 401k. They're going to get it, they're going to spend it, right? And then they're going to go do it again. So if you run a gambling hall, I think you're doing pretty well. What better way for a rogue to spend their hard-earned coin than gambling it away in a smoky den full of seedy characters? This is a place where folks like yourself come to throw dice and swap stories. If you're lucky, they'll leave without a knife in their ribs. I think there's just a little bit of a dialect switch up here a little bit. This is a place where folks like yourself, but then it says if they're lucky, they'll leave. I guess it could have been if you're lucky, you'll leave, but I digress and nitpick. There are 3 games to play. There's Hack and Slash, there's Piss on Your Graves, and then there is Delver's Dice. Which one do I want? I'm just going to go over one of them. Let's see. Let's go with the first one. Let's go with Hack and Slash. So, a player may play this game once during any rest phase, and the cost to play is 10 coins. To play this game, you'll need 6 dice of one color and 6 of another. Pick one set of dice as your hack dice and the other as your slash dice. Roll all of your hack dice, take any 6s you roll and put them aside. They're worth coin. For any dice that rolls a 1, you'll add one of your slash dice into the mix to be rolled next round. Each 6 you rolled is worth 5 coins. You can choose to cash out and take your money, or try again for even more. If you decide to try again, you must roll any slash dice that you've put into the mix. If your slash dice roll a 1, it's over for you. You're leaving without any coin. There's good news, however. You can spend a luck point to reroll one of your dice. Might be a risky proposition to be spending luck right before the next delve, but who am I to tell you how to live? Keep rolling until you either get all 6s on your hack die, get a 1 on your slash die, or decide to cash out. Super simple, straightforward, and easy peasy. Way to do that. I really enjoy the game. Give me 1 second, folks. I just got to do one thing real quick. Never mind. And then I'm back. We're good. Really love that. All 3 games are really, really great. The Piss on Your Graves is 5 to 25 coins. And you can play it as many times as you want between rest phases. And the Delver's Dice cost 10 coins. And you can play it once during a rest phase. So there's 3 games to play at the Quasar Gambling Hall. And this is something that's going to come up in future delves and things too, I believe, especially when there's an expansion to Rock Bottom. So this is delving and how to play the games. We're getting into the nitty gritty here of how to do this and what to do. Yeah. So you made some rogues, you did some shopping. Now you're almost ready for your first delve. We got to get some things straight first, Merc. Just like cards and dice, you got to know the rules of the game to play. So marching order spaces. So each creature takes up 1 space. If a creature dies, the space goes away. There are no blanks. That'll be important. For example, the archer's basic, when counting spaces fractions, each creature, be it friend or foe, counts as 1 space. For example, the archer's basic attack targets an enemy 5 to 6 spaces away. To figure out that distance, count each creature in front of you. When you reach the 5th creature, that's the first one that may be targeted. So set your marching order. So there's a graphic here that makes this make a little more sense as far as the marching order. And then you go, oh, okay, I've played Darkest Dungeon. Some of us have. Basically, the way it works is the combat is flat. Right, it doesn't take place in a 3-dimensional space, right? There's no left, right, up, down, all that kind of stuff. It's literally it's just left to right. So it's as if you're looking at like a side scroller video game, or again, the best way to describe it is like Darkest Dungeon, right? So on the left side, you have your 4 rogues stacked from back to front, right? We'll say all the way back is 4, and the next one to the right of that is 3, the next one to the right of that is 2, and then you have 1, the rogue in the front. And then there is a battle line, right? And then to the right of that, you have 4 bad guys, or however many bad guys, and they go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's, imagine exactly a cramped dungeon corridor. You can't really line up. If it's a very narrow space, you're basically in a row, right? But lay that sideways, right? So you're looking at it from the side. So you have 4 guys in a row, a line, and then 4 bad guys in a row, sideways. 8 sideways. I can't say sideways that many more fucking times. This Red Bull's hitting. So that is, and the order in which those characters are laid out is called the marching order. See how it's all coming together now? See, we're putting 2 and 2 together here, and it's fantastic. And it super makes sense considering that's basically the core of the entire game, that it's called marching order. So let's see someone who actually wrote the game describe it a lot better than I can. There's a nice little chart below. You may end up adding more creatures to your marching order during a delve. You may not have more than 6 creatures in your marching order at one time. And if a creature would be added to your marching order and you already have 6 creatures in it, either remove one of the creatures already in it or don't add the creature. Find the card that corresponds with your rogue, because again, you get a deck of all of the different rogues and monsters and stuff right in the beginning when you buy the game, so go do that. Now cooperate with your fellow players to decide what your initial marching order is. Can't cooperate? Roll dice and let the high roll decide. Place a card of your first rogue to the farthest right, which means the closest to the bad guys and the battle line, and place a card for the second rogue in the marching order to the left of that, and so on. I wouldn't expect to stay where you are, Merc. The delves get chaotic. So yeah, you'll move around within that system. And then reading a delve entry. So as I've said a couple of times, the delves are written as kind of choose your own adventure, like game book style things. And this is a great way this is a great entry. I love this page and the descriptor that comes with it. So marching order is made up of a series of delve entries. If you've ever read one of them book things that let you choose your own path, you're ahead of the curve here. Each entry can give you things to fight, things to explore, choices to make, and let's take a look at one. So there is a graphic here of a 9 square room, right? 3 across, 3 down. It's got an object in the middle. It's got 1 door to the bottom with an E on top of it. And there you go. So 1, it says H. All right. And if we scroll down, it says, this is the letter of the entry you are currently reading. So this is entry H. So number 2, it says, of course, this wouldn't be a delve without some vermin. Time to get to work. Something looks weird about that 1 rat, though. And number 2, it says, describes a scene, room, or action of the entry. Okay. Let's go with the explainer first, then I'll go at it. So number 3, you got to do whatever is listed here right away. Normally, if you're in the dark, that involves marking off some torches. See light and darkness below. And in this entry, number 3 says mark off 1 box on your torch. Okay. Number 4, it says there are some baddies in the room. The number listed here right away. The number listed afterwards, the capital ETN, is how hard it is to run away from them. Before you get to do anything else, you're going to have to fight. See combat on page 45 with hyperlinks for all the details. So in number 4 up top on this entry, it says giant rat, diseased rat, trap spider, zombie rat, ETN 2. All right, number 5, it says now it's time to do some reading. If the room contains anything other than ruthless brutes trying to cut your throat, it'll be listed here. You might also get to make some decisions. So this says, want to open the casket? Go to M. All right, there's a little bit more explanation here. It says, according to the text, there's a casket here to interact with. If you decide to open it, you can go to passage. I believe this is a typo. I saw that in it. So this says go to passage in. But on the delve thing in here, it says go to M on the example delve. So go to passage in or M to find out what happens. No one is forcing you to do it. If you got a bad feeling in your gut and you're sure it's not from the swill that the tavern calls ale, you can ignore it altogether. It's what I do with most of my problems, and it turns out fine. If you do, just stay where you are. And then number 6, it says once you're ready to move on, you got to choose which way to go. If you notice on the map, the passageway out of this place is labeled with a letter. If you're a smart rogue, you probably realize these letters correspond to other entries. Some entries have multiple passages. So this one, as I said before, there's an E on the door. So then you would go to E on the entry. Makes sense, right? Okay. So getting into the nitty-gritty of the dice mechanics and things like that, we have rolls. Whenever a roll is called for, you roll a 6-sided dice. Generally, the roll will be modified by something. A physical roll will add your physical stat, a magic roll will add your magic stat, and so on. Makes sense. Rolls will often be phrased in the following way. Quote, make a physical roll versus the target's defense, end quote. This means you roll a 6-sided dice and add your physical stat. If it ties or is above the target's defense, it is successful. If it is less than the target defense, that action fails. Other times, a roll will be made against a static target number instead of a stat. This will be abbreviated as TN. Rolling against TN3, for example, would mean the result of your roll would have to equal or exceed 3 to succeed. If a roll does not call for a stat, just roll 1d6 and add any modifiers it mentions. Making a +2 roll, for example, means you roll 1d6 and add 2. No stats are involved. Easy peasy, straightforward. It's literally just basically a d6 roll over system. That's it. Really straightforward. It's not a d20. What's interesting about... So, if you know me at all, if you listen to the show at all, 2d6 is my favorite because there is a bell curve, which I really enjoy. 1d6 is a really, really interesting mechanic for this game because of how small the margins are, right? Like, think about it. The difference between a 2 and a 4 on a d20 is like, what, 10%? Like that's like the difference between like a 15 and a 17, right? But in this game, the difference between a 2 and a 4 is fucking massive. Basically each one is worth, my math fucking terrible, like 15, 16% per number, right? Let's pull out a calculator and do real math. If you take, I guess it'd be 100 divided by 6. Is that how you math? 16.6. I'm not completely stupid. So every single number on the die is worth almost 17%, right? That's how big the swing is. Again, on a d20, every number is 5%. So that tells you that basically like every single one of these is worth like 3 on a d20. If that helps your mind a little bit, probably making you more confused because I think I just fucked myself up with that one. But long story short, it's such a smaller margin of success or failure, which is really interesting. During the interview, Brad and James talked a bunch about like rolling 1 a bunch of times. Statistically, it's going to happen a fuckload more. That's why things like usage die work, right? Like the smaller the die, the higher possibility of rolling 1s or failures because it's such a more narrow success or failure margin. So that right off the bat, just as a rules text reading that, you have to go, damn, okay. Like if this was a D20 system, there's a lot more margin for error, right? For success and failure. You're going to fail a lot in this game, which means you're going to die a lot, which is fun. Let your characters die. Attack rolls. So attack rolls are a very specific type of roll that work. They work like the rolls mentioned above, but important difference is attack rolls do damage. Again, if it just says roll something, it doesn't do damage. If it says attack rolls, right, you do damage. So attack rolls will often be phrased in the following way. Make a physical attack roll versus the target's defense. In the case of an attack roll, the trait is still added to the roll of the dice. The target number in this case is the target's defense. It's then subtracted from the result. If this number is a positive number, the target suffers that much damage to their health in addition to any other condition listed in the ability. So let's run through that again, right? Well, so let's say physical attack roll versus target's defense. Okay. So if the target's defense is 2, right? And you roll a 4 total on your physical attack roll, okay? You take the amount of positive numbers above what you rolled, right? So you roll a 4, they have a defense 2, that leaves you with 2 points over their defense, right? So they take 2 points of damage. Seems reasonable. I enjoy that. It reminds me a little bit of things like tunnel goons, for example, or maze rats. Maze rats does a similar thing with like 2d6, where basically you roll your 2 dice together, and however, I mean, it's the exact same thing. It's just 2d6 instead. However many points it's above the target's armor, that's how many damage it takes. Basically, whatever's left over, that's your damage. Super clean, super easy. Like, doesn't overcomplicate it by any stretch of the imagination. It's a really great way for this game, because you're using such a small die, just a d6, to not have to roll damage dice and stuff like that. Some people love rolling tons of dice. I really enjoy not rolling a ton of dice. I like not having to roll damage dice on top of the thing that you already rolled. So this is just 1d6, everything right there. You get whether you hit or not, and you get the damage that you do. Clean, simple, easy, moving on. Half rolls, we talked about that before. You just divide by 2 and round up. Mapping. So look, I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I get it. Sometimes you're in a rush to get the money and you ain't looking to do more paperwork. A smart rogue, however, is going to make a map as they go. A really smart rogue probably isn't going to go on a delve in the first place. Again, I fucking love the way this is written. Like, just the tone throughout the entire thing. You either I feel like this is gonna be one of the things you really love or you don't, right? I don't think there's a lot of middle ground on this. If you read this and you're not a fan of the way that it's written, you probably buy the game, spend more money, but it just might not be for you, because I feel like the Mustafa Bakir art, the mechanics of the game, the lore of the game, and the way in which the game is written is so intrinsically linked to the experience. That if you're not a fan of any of those parts, it might be a little hard for you to be a fan of the game in general. Maybe not. I mean, for me, like I said, it feels like it's really intrinsically linked. And I feel like if any of those parts were a little bit different, it wouldn't give you quite the experience that you get from this. It makes a really great total package. So you grab some grid paper, map as you go, and there's 2 reasons for this. First, you might want to get out of the delve in a hurry. Knowing which way to go can help. Secondly, it's a lot easier to keep track of where you've been. If you've already killed the monsters in a room, you don't have to kill them again. I'm mapping some notes. So I get the second part, right? Basically, like, if you know where you've gone, you know where you can go back to if you need to, right? My question, though, and we'll get to the escape rules and stuff later, is the first one to me doesn't seem applicable, right? Like, first, you might want to get out of the delve in a hurry. But I believe, and tell me, I mean, I could be completely wrong, the rules to get out of the delve basically say if you all decide to leave, you just leave and take 2d6 damage. So mapping in order to find your way out, if you can just say, we're leaving, and you take your damage and go, maybe that's just when it goes dark from a torch. But I don't... That's just if your torch dies. So if you just want to walk out, you could just walk out. Or I guess theoretically, if you really just want to leave, you could just let your torch die, take your 2d6 damage, and leave. So, but I guess, yeah, if you just want to like walk out of the delve, it makes sense that you would have to track out of the delve as well. So, all right, this is why it's great to have the creators of the game in chat with you. So if you want to get extra fancy, you can do this all on a dry erase map, blah, 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 blah. Use minis if you want instead of the cards. I think it'd be interesting to actually have minis set up in front of you and kind of have the cards laying down on the table beside it. That'd be an interesting, different way to do it. I love minis. I have way too many of them. But I think that'd be fun and interesting. Just make sure you break out whatever terrain. While you're at it, send us a picture of your setup at crumblingkeep@gmail.com or post them in the Marching Order Facebook group. This is another one where there is I guess, a URL, like an email address that could benefit from a hyperlink as well. Thank you so much, Jino. So light and darkness, another big important part of the game here. It's a good idea to take a few torches with you in case you end up in the dark. Hey, that's like the third time that that's come up. Probably have torches, right? When you buy a torch, draw 4 small boxes by it, or keep track on your nifty character sheets, or use a 4-sided dice if you want. If you go into a room that doesn't have light, the entry will tell you to mark the box off your torch. Once all 4 boxes are marched up, you'll have to start on another torch. Only one rogue needs to mark off mark off a box when this happens. We don't need to double up on the burnables. So basically, torches don't last very long. And every time you go into a dark space, you use a torch. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's not quite like usage dice, but in a various way it is. So you start with 4, right? And then you go into a dark room and it becomes 3. You go into another dark room, it becomes 2. You go into another dark room, it becomes 1. You want to have light, have torches. Super clean, easy way to do it. 4 is not very many. I'm curious about the design choice in 4 specifically, as opposed to 6 or 3 or something like that. It doesn't really matter. But I think 6 would be, again, we've talked about 16% and stuff like that. If you had 6 instead of 4, you know, that's like a 32% increase in the amount of time that you have with your torch. 4 feels like you're not necessarily fucked, but you have to keep track. Like, you really have to be diligent, and I really, really enjoy that. It's a great mechanic. It definitely adds into the choices in the game. As we said in the interview earlier, there's a lot of choice design in this game that's really, really enjoyable. A lot of resource management, now versus later choices, things like that. And this is one of those ones really early on. Even just by reading this, you know, when you look at the game design aspect of it, it really sets a tone for how far you can delve, how many torches you think you're going to need, all those kind of things. And again, the resource management aspect, you really need to keep it in the front of your mind. It's not like, you know, a popular game about Dungeons and sometimes Dragons, where realistically you can carry 1,000 pounds of bullshit, because who doesn't give their players a bag of holding within the first 3 sessions? I always do, because I don't want to deal with inventory management, but I love inventory management. I really do. I've said it on the show before. I'm going to say it again. Inventory management, for some reason, really tweaks my fancy. 5 Torches Deep is a game somebody sent me that I still need to dig through. A 5e hack, if you will. But this is really interesting. I really like it a lot. So continuing on, sometimes you go to a different text section in the delve when exploring a room. If one of the text sections returns you to the room description and you haven't actually left the room, you do not have to mark off another box on the torch. If you leave the room and come back to it, however, you will mark off another box. So again, be cautious with your light source. Keep light. I mean, again, low level dungeon delving games are basically fucking horror games, and that's what this realistically is. I can't imagine, like, if you really, let's set it in reality for a second. It's a game. Let's hit the simulation, right? You're down in corridors that are so cramped you have to walk single file with a set number of torches, right? And monsters down there that can kill you. I would make very fucking sure that I had a shitload of torches, because the only thing worse than being down there in the first place is being down there in the dark. So keep that in mind. So now what happens if you're on a light? I talked about this earlier. You're going to lose 2d6 health per rogue as you flee the delve. I love this. It's a great mechanic, right? It doesn't make you fuck around. It doesn't make you, you know, try to figure some stuff out. It doesn't make you stumble through the thing and spend an hour, you know, doing whatever. You just leave. right? And every rogue takes 2d6 damage on the way out to account for all the things in the dark trying to hit you as you leave, right? That's actually really, I don't say gracious, like that's kind. It's one of the most kind things, honestly, in the rule set for you is you actually are allowed to just leave if 2d6 wouldn't kill you. Because in the dark, it's going to be hard to get out, right? So just being like, sure, you can just get out. You just get a bunch of damage on the way. You're welcome. Okay, going into combat. This is another graphic for... How many pages do we got? I'm going to scroll through. 97. Man, I'm only about halfway. I got to talk faster. Let me get back to where we were. Okay. So, combat. Here it is. This is what you've been waiting for. There's a great graphic here that, again, lays out the whole, like, 8 characters, right? Battle line in the middle, 4 rogues on one side, 4 enemies on the other. Backs are the farthest from the battle line in the middle. Fronts are the closest to the battle line in the middle. This is how it works, right? First, you're going to line up enemies in your marching order. They're going to be placed to the right of the rogues. And then the rogues are going to be placed to the left. So you literally get 8 creatures in a row from left to right, right? There's an area between the rightmost rogue and the leftmost enemy. This is the battle line. This is where it's the grittiest and the real damage happens. Any condition or effect that causes the creature to go forward will always send them towards the battle line, and backwards goes away from the battle line. Now that you've set them up, see who goes first. Roll 1 dice for the rogues and 1 dice for the enemy. It doesn't matter who rolls it. I trust you to figure it out. Whichever side rolls higher, I assume that's just a d6. It doesn't say it innately, but there's really no other dice in the fucking game. All the creatures on the active side will take a turn. After that, all the creatures on the other side will go. You repeat this, stuff happens, right? So let's talk about a rogue's turn. We're getting into, when it's a rogue's turn, they're going to go through 3 phases, right? They're going to go through conditions, cooldowns, actions, and bullshit, right? Super straightforward. Conditions and cooldowns, you resolve any ongoing conditions that are affecting the rogue and reduce their corresponding die by 1. For instance, if your rogue is on fire, great example, you'll take the damage now and reduce any die that is keeping track of how long you're on fire for. You'll also reduce a cooldown die at the same time. So this is the second time. It says there are no reset, but these do not reset between encounters. See what are cooldowns and conditions on page 48. We'll get to that. The second step is action. This is your bread and butter. Each rogue gets to take 1 action in this phase, unless they have some type of condition. Any rogue can either move, use an item, focus, or escape. If a rogue moves, they can switch places with a rogue who is in front of them or behind them. It's up to the rogue whose turn it is. The rogue they're exchanging places with doesn't get a say. You just move up and down in the marching order, right? If the rogue wants to use an item, erase the item from your sheet and do what it says. Simple enough. If the item doesn't specify a target in its description, it can be either used on a rogue, or it can either be used on the rogue themselves or on an adjacent rogue. I like that. There's a couple little spots where I'm like, I wonder if this came up in playtesting. This feels like a fringe case, but it's really well described. Like, you don't have to write every single time exactly what it can do. If you just say once in the rules, this is what it does if it doesn't say that, right? So if it specifies that something that it can do go with the specificity. If it doesn't, it can be used on yourself or an adjacent person. That's it. That's fantastic. Any rogue that wishes to focus may reduce all of their cooldown dice by 1 as they catch their breath. With all that shouting and clanging, sometimes you need a second. Great little rule. I love the concept of focus, right? Especially if you're like, you can choose to move farther back in the marching order to get away from the damage. And then say you are on fire and you have, conditions and cooldowns and stuff like that, or you have an ability you want to use that's on a cooldown, you can just take a breather, take a second, reduce them all by 1, get closer to getting your stuff back, and then move farther back up the line. Like, I like that you can kind of, not hide, but like you can move back farther in the line and regroup, which is nice. If a rogue is in the backmost space of the marching order, they can attempt to escape. You can make an escape roll versus the target number listed in the encounter description. So earlier when we talked about, I think it's ETN, I assume that's the escape target number. So that's the number you have to roll in order to get away. So if you're the very farthest left rogue and you want to just bounce, and I think the ETN earlier was 2, you just have to roll higher than a 2 and your rogue can run away. Leaving fewer rogues for the bad guys, though, which means some of them will get targeted more each time someone runs away. So when there's 1 rogue left and 4 bad guys, that really sucks for them. If the rogue succeeds, they're taken out of combat safe and sound. If the rogue wins, if the rogue wins and there are no enemies left, the rogue returns to the end of the marching order at the location the combat happened. Blah, blah, blah. If all the rogues leave combat, either because they escaped or died, and there are still enemies left, the living rogues retreat to the previous location. Other than the actions listed above, each rogue also has character-specific actions listed on their character sheet. The rogue can, and often will, choose one of those instead. Each action explains why it works. So basically, it sounds like you can't move and do an action at the same time, because moving is one of your actions, and then you also have action-specific things. I think I probably would have put that little rider higher. Or even listed it as like another bolded like section in here. So it would say like any rogue can either move, use an action, focus, escape, or, you know, use a rogue specific action. So that you're not, you know, kind of being like, oh, like I can do these things. So wait, I can't do where attacks. But yeah, so what are cooldowns and conditions? So we talked about this before. It's a condition is something bad for you, and a cooldown is like your abilities and things like that. So if a creature has an ongoing condition, write it on your character sheet. Then put a dice next to it in the convenient box. However many rounds it lasts for is what the dice should read. So for example, if you read an ability that would give a creature defenseless bracket 2, for 2 rounds, you'd write defenseless bracket 2 on their sheet and place a die next to it showing the number 2. If you look back at the condition section on 46, you'll see how that works. So cooldown works the same way. If you use an ability and it has a cooldown period, place a dice on that ability with the appropriate number shown as listed in the ability's description. At the condition and cooldown phase, in the condition cooldown phase, you'll count all these dice down by 1. If you have a dice that shows number 2, it'll change to 1, etc. These do not reset between encounters. That's the 3rd time this comes up. Yeah, dice counters are a really smart way to do this. Reactions. Some characters have actions that are labeled as reactions. These are a very special type of action as they happen not on the rogue's turn. No, actually, James, if I scroll up a little bit, right here in big bold letters for the 3rd time, it says these do not reset between encounters. Probably something, if it's the 3rd time halfway through the book that it says this, it's probably really important, people. Bullshit. Love the bullshit. Let's look at this. So, everything, look, not everything in a delve is going to go as planned. The hallmark of a rogue's life is copious amounts of bullshit, either for them or for the enemies they face. At the end of every round, you're going to roll the bullshit dice and see what bullshit may come. So you roll a die and look at the rogue's traits to see if one corresponds with what you rolled. If it does, it takes effect immediately. Read the trait, be it quality or flaw, and do what it says. Maybe you just got lucky. Chances are, though, it's more bullshit. You get this so far? Good. Go to the next creature in order and repeat all these steps again. Once every creature on the active side has taken a turn, the other side becomes active. So, 1. Do all your conditions and cooldowns. If anything is affecting you, it affects you now. Take the damage now. Do all of that stuff. Roll down all your condition and cooldown die, right? Step 1. Do all of that. 2, you take an action, right? Whatever it is. Move, attack, whatever it's going to be. You do that thing. 3, roll that bullshit, right? If it says to do something, do it. Boom, that's your turn. Goes to the next rogue. You do those 3 steps again for all 4, and then it jumps over to the enemies, and all the enemies get to do all of their turns, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth. It's pretty straightforward, right? Enemy's turn works like the rogue's turn. Each enemy has a collection of numbered actions. There's a fun like AI to the enemies we'll talk about a little bit later. So basically when they roll, a lot of them get An action if you roll 1 to 3, an action if you roll 4 to 6, and some of them get a different action if you roll like a 6, right? So 1 to 3, 4 to 5, and 6, right? You'll get different actions. So there's like a built-in AI, which makes sense. There's no GM. There has to be listed in some way to make that work. Ooh, I am talking a lot. Usually Hunter lessens a burden. A little sip of water. Okay, so after that, roll their bullshit. Congrats. They have gone. Bad guys did their thing, because bad guys got some bullshit too, right? You repeat this step all over again. Oh, this is what I was trying to find earlier, James. So there's a section here that says PS. You can't use items, change your position, or take any actions outside of combat. Is it realistic? Hell no. If you want real, I think there's a typo there. If you want realism, go get your best kitchen knife, climb down into the sewers, and start hunting rats. Let me know how that goes for you. I think that's one. Okay, so loot. No one is going down into the delve for their health. You're there for the loot. It's all about the Benjamins. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. For coins, it's simple. Divide by the amount of players that are still alive and round up. Each player gets that amount. Where does that extra coin come from to make it even? Don't worry about it. Just spend it. I love that. I love how many times the game just says, who gives a shit? Just do it, right? Like, who gives a shit? Like, they're letting you round up. I'd make it round out, because fuck you. You dropped one on the way out. This one just says, like, you found an extra one in your pocket, right? That's what it says. I love the number of times it says, who cares? Who gives a shit? Why are you trying to complicate this stuff? Like, it's a game. For items, it's a little different. For each item found, anyone who wants it must declare interest. You roll the dice and add your luck score. If you get the high roll, you get the item. The downside is it reduces your luck. I love the way the luck is used in this, in the gambling hall, when you're dividing up items, things like that. Because your luck is recouped, but if you spend it in your downtime, you don't have it in the next delve either, right? So there's a lot of resource management when it comes to the luck points, because luck allows you to re-roll any roll, right? Your roll, a monster roll, a bullshit roll, fucking any roll. So it's a really important thing to have, and you can spend as much of it on every roll that you want, right? It's a really important resource, probably one of the most important resources in the entire game. If you think the item is worth spending luck on, go for it. But I do like this other section up here. It says, some items mentioned they can only be used by a specific character type in the description. If that's the case, don't get cute. You can't roll for an item you can't use. I like that. Again, a lot of times there's these like one-line little rules that really get rid of a lot of potential questions, edge cases, stuff like that. Like, don't be a dick. Like, if you can't use it, don't take it just to take it, right? There's no reason to waste your luck. There's no reason to do any of that stuff. And this specifically says, just fucking don't. I like that. Death, right? Things die, right? We're all gonna die someday. You know, you gotta accept that. You know, when you realize that and accept it, you know, that's when you're not a kid anymore. So you're gonna die in this game. There are no saves. There's no stabilizing checks. Once you hit 0, you're fucking dead. That's it. Now it is possible to bring a roll back. We talked about that. It's like 500 coin for resurrection. You come back with all your stats or abilities, but your gear is still down there, probably plundered by your homies, actually. And it might not be worth the cost that the priest charged for it. If you have enough coin, you just buy a new rogue and start from scratch, or again, you can resurrect one. Hell, you might even have a backup rogue already because you was smart and thinking ahead. If so, bully for you, spank their ass, and get ready to send them into a delve. They're all grown up now. Again, I love this book. If you don't have the money to buy a new rogue and you don't want to take a torchbearer, it's time to start over. See the chart on page 17 under get your coin and give yourself some money. Better luck next time, Cap. I would actually put an explainer in this section here that says why you would have a torchbearer instead. When we scroll down, we'll see that. But the first time I read through this, I was like, wait, what's a torchbearer? Because up until this point, I don't believe it's been mentioned at all. And don't worry, your items don't go to waste, remaining. Your buddies looted you when you died. as they should, as I would, as we all would. Leaving and returning to the delve. Eventually, you're going to leave. Usually, you just leave the delve the same way you came in. If you finish your objective, there's some special instructions. Go grab a drink and get ready for the next one. If you're retreating, there ain't no shame in that. My aunt Beatrice the Pick was a master at it, and she lived to the ripe old age of 36. You can always go back into the delve again later. Here's the thing, though. When you re-enter a delve, all the monsters reset. That means everything you killed will have to be killed again. This is another graphic. James, I have a question. Was the art used, like all of these illustrations, were these from a specific person? Are these considered like a public domain image? Like where, because I think this character looks like a very similar character, if it's not, to the one that was in the bar earlier. And I guess my question was that intentional? It varies. Some are public domain, some are stock art. Got it. Okay, so the rest of the delve stays as it was. Brad would actually know more. Gotcha. You don't have to worry about traps or the nonsense. So yeah, so all the monsters reset, but everything else you did is the same, right? None of the traps or other stuff is there, but any items you already got aren't there either, right? Them's the breaks. If you're waiting for Crumbling Keep to release more delves, just go back down the same hole and drop us an email telling us to get on with it. There are more delves now, like the quick and dirties that you should go back on Indiegogo right now. Oh, and one more thing. If you think you're an oh-so-clever rogue who's just going to enter a delve, immediately leave again so they can heal, I'm going to have to stop you right there. I love this, too. It's not like you're going to get 2 rooms in and just run out, right? When your rogue starts any delve, they gain the condition Motivated 10. That means they can't leave the delve for 10 rounds. If you don't want to keep track of that, I ain't going to be watching over your shoulder. If you feel like you're gaming the game, you're probably doing it wrong. Love that. I love the way it's written. I love the reason that you do it. Like, minimum 10 rounds when you go into a delve. I mean, I guess unless you run out of torches immediately or something, I mean, you're just kind of shit out of luck, but I really enjoy that. So there is a rest phase. After exiting a delve, you get to indulge in the rest phase. All conditions end during the rest phase, unless otherwise noted. You go back to the town of Rot Bottom. Oh, no. Cooldown dice go away. Long story short, you get to recoup for free. You get all your shit back. You heal up. You do what you need to do. You buy services. And congrats. That's it. You did it. Good job. Like, that's them's the rules. So the next thing you want to do is open the Delver's Guide, which does come in the box set, which is part of our giveaway. If you're listening now and you haven't gone to the old tweeters, the slowly burning birdie site, I guess not that slowly, go do it. There's a spread here with some more art on it. I'm not the hugest fan of this spread, but it is there. And then you get the reference section, which gives you like all of your rogues, all of your monsters, all kinds of things like that. There's a great picture here of a rogue with some swords leaning against like a wanted board. And then you get into the actual rogues themselves. So let's look at a couple here. One that I do want to go to right away. So let me actually like say what I'm passing here. We got an alchemist. We got a archer. So a lot of these prices are 100 coin. Barbarian 150. Construct is free. We talked about that earlier. This is only used when you have 3 players. A Cosmic Marine, which is really interesting. You know, one of their abilities is for the Emperor. I think we all know where that came from. The other thing too, this is where you can get some more Mustafa Bakir art. It would have been awesome if this was the art throughout the entire book. But each of the characters, also if the art on these was bigger, I would really like that a lot. The images themselves are relatively small, but they're great graphics to use for each of the characters. And again, more Mustafa is not a bad thing. So Cosmic Marine, you know what that is. You got a Doctor, you got a Knight, which is 200 coin. A Musketeer, which is 150. Sellsword, Thief, Thief is 150. So Torchbearer. Torchbearers are free. I want to go over this one because at one point earlier in the game, and again, I think it could benefit from some clarification. The only time it ever mentions Torchbearer in the entire thing is if you don't have enough coin to buy another character. Having a little bit of a explainer in the beginning part that said, you know, specifically that would have been, I think, beneficial. So Torchbearer, they're free. They don't have the greatest traits in the world, but it says the Torchbearer starts with 2 additional inventory slots. Any torch the Torchbearer uses has 6 slots instead of 4. And each Torchbearer you recruit after the first one cost 10 coin. Your reputation for losing hirelings spreads. The actions are throw a stone, basic attack, target one creature up to 3 spaces away and make a physical attack roll. Another action is no, not me, which is a reaction. Trigger is when an enemy targets you with an attack, roll a dice. If it's 4 or above, you redirect the attack to adjacent rogue. And I'm a helper, cooldown 3, target an adjacent rogue. The rogue gains the condition inspired, and then thanks, it has pockets, cooldown 5. You may use 2 items this round. Qualities are fun. There's a lot of fun lore and writing for each of these characters and the qualities and flaws. Oh look, another torch is your quality. You gain another torch is number 1. Number 6, I'm just an NPC, forget about me. You gain the condition forgotten. Flaws, oh no, it burns. You gain the conditions on fire, indefinitely apparently, and stunned. And 6, death. Everywhere is death. I'm too young and pretty to die. And that says target every ally they gain the condition disheartened. So basically, if you don't have enough coin to buy another rogue, you can get a Torchbearer. They have a ton of inventory slots. They have a torch that lasts, 30+% longer. Basically, yeah, they end up being an NPC. I don't know. I don't know what should be better, whether it's the Construct or the Torchbearer, but either way, you can only use a Construct in a 3-player game anyway. So when I roll on my bullshit on my rogue, right? Looking at this, just for some clarification, how would I know the difference between qualities and flaws, and which one, when I roll my bullshit, I get quality or flaw, or is it both? Because just going directly to the table here, when I roll on my bullshit, I have a list of sorry, oh, 1 second. Thank you. I have a list of qualities and a list of flaws. During character creation, you'll get 1 quality. Again, that's right. You get 1 quality and 1 flaw randomly selected from those tables, right? Those are what happens when you roll the things. And then you'll get more, you can get more qualities and flaws as you go through the game, unless I'm completely fucking mistaken. So that is basically what a character is like. Let's pick one other kind of random. Actually, let's just go to Construct. Construct is only used for 3-player games. Any and all players may pay to upgrade the Construct. When creating the Construct, players jointly decide which additional action it receives. As always, if a decision can't be reached, high roll decides. When the Construct takes a turn, roll randomly to decide what action it takes. See the following table for assigning numbers of the die roll. The Construct never targets itself with any action or bullshit. Any rogue may spend an action to move the Construct. The Construct automatically escapes if all other rogues do, and all rogues may draw from its luck pool. So basic attack is bzzzt. Target a random rogue. The rogue immediately takes an action. Burped. So it's robot. It's Construct noises. You can target every rogue. Their cooldown dice is reduced by 1. Click, click, pow. Target a random enemy. Make a physical attack versus their defense. And ding, ding, ding. Target a random rogue. They gain 2 health up to their maximum. They got action rolls. 2 actions available, 3 actions available, 4 actions available on 1 to 3, 4 to 6, etc., etc. They have lists of qualities and flaws that, again, crack me up. So Power Surge, you immediately take an action. 6, Johnny 5 Alive, you gain a half roll of health. For flaws, 1, I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that. You gain the condition Stunned. And 6, remember that time Robocop shot that guy in the dick? Target a random rogue, they gain the condition Puny. I mean, come on. How can you not love this game? Classic. It's fantastic. So those are kind of how the character sheets go. You get a list of all of your stuff: price, physical, defense, magic, health, everything like that. You get actions, you get qualities, you get flaws. They're all really well written. You get 6 qualities, 6 flaws listed, which crack me up. They're super specific to the characters, which is great. And that is the way that your characters go. So let's look at some of the other references. Oh, there's a Were-Rat rogue, which is great. A wizard. I know Hunter would pick that one. The price is $200. A big graphic from Mustafa here. And then we get to the monsters appendix, right? Let's just pick one that's got Goblin Lord. This is fun. So this is a pretty beefy one. So, all right, Goblin Lord. You got +3 physical, 3 defense, 12 health, 0 magic, 2 resolve. Right? Actually, real quick, I want to run back up to just a regular rogue and see how much health does a construct start with. You start with 12 health. So 2d6 on the way out could kill you. I mean, you're going to average between this, 6 and 8. So if you're really low and you run out of torches, you could die on the way out pretty quickly. A lot of the health is even smaller than that. Like the torchbearer has 5 health. So realistically, 2d6 health when you run out of torches, you're dead, son. So going back to the monsters, we're going to go straight to the Goblin Lord. So like Dire Wolf is a more basic one. 1 to 3, you get an attack. 4 to 6, you get an attack. Then there's a bullshit at 1 and 6. But going to the Goblin Lord, because it's a little beefier, right? So it's got physical defense, health, magic, and resolve. And then you have a special, which is before taking an action, the Goblin Lord targets any adjacent rogues. It makes a physical attack roll versus the target's defense. After this attack, roll for the Goblin Lord's action like normal. So basically, this gives you a whole nother attack at the beginning of every turn you take. You immediately start with attack and then do your actions. So you roll, and again, there's this built-in AI, which I really, really enjoy. So on a roll of a 1 to 3, you get I Big Boss, you do work. You target a random ally, and that creature takes an immediate action. On a 4 to 5, there's Take This. The Goblin Lord throws part of his treasury at the rogues. Target a random rogue and make a +1 attack roll versus their defense. That rogue takes damage as normal. If the attack is successful or not, the rogue also gains 1d6 coins. So the Goblin is literally making it rain with coin. And 6, making it hail, as one might say. If the Goblin Lord currently has less than 3 allies, they summon a random foe to help them. The random foe is placed directly in front of the Goblin Lord in the marching order. And then you roll for your random foe that helps them. 1 to 3 is a Goblin Slinger, 4 to 5 is a Dire Wolf, and 6 is a Goblin Wall Boy. And then there's bullshit at 1 and 6. 1, do better, Cretin. Target an adjacent ally. Make a physical attack roll versus a creature's defense. So that literally they hit their buddies. And 6, I will squash you and feed your bones to my dogs. Target a random rogue. The Goblin Lord makes a +2 attack versus a creature's resolve. If successful, the rogue gains a condition Stunned. So that's how the monsters work. Like I said, again, you have to have procedure. I love the way this procedure works. You basically just roll a d6 and it'll tell you exactly what to do. Fantastic. Really, really great. Goblin Slinger, a lot of goblins in here. Goblin Sneak Thief, Goblin Wall Boy, Imp, Living Statue, Obscene Skull, Ominous Presence, Diseased Rat, Giant Rat, Zombie Rat, Siegfried von Shadowhammer. This one is really, really beefy. It's actually 6 completely different actions all the way up with the special effect. And we're going to cruise through some of these other monsters. There's tons of monsters. I mean, this is like a third of the book here, realistically, which is great. And then we get to the conditions section. So there's a lot of conditions in the book. Absorbed, you literally become absorbed. Allied, armored, attuned, bleed. I'm not going to go over all of these. Buy the book, read the book, or go win the giveaway that I'm going to do soon. Bolstered, charged, cursed, deadly, defenseless, diminished, disheartened, drugged, explosive, fooled, forgotten, frightened, grappled, hidden, high as fuck. Yes, that is a condition. When this creature would take an action, it instead targets a random adjacent ally. You make a physical attack roll. Gosh, I'm not even gonna read it. So potent, rat trapped, restrained, sickened, speedy, terrified, vicious, zombie. Oh, there's an asterisk. Oh, venom and poison aren't the same thing. If you're so smart, why are you killing goblins in a dark hole for a living? Love that. And it says, thank you to these gullible Lombard merchants for taking an extra risk on this venture. So there's a list of all of the original Kickstarter patrons, which you just love to see in the back of these books. It's really cool. It's a great way to give a nod to the people that supported you. And then we're at the back cover. That's it. There's another. Oh, this is what I wanted to see. This is great. So, yeah, let me. So I don't know if you're seeing the links, but every time you drop a link in the chat, it's just a bunch of stars. Oh, Mustafa actually retweeted us just a second ago. Let me get the link to this tweet. We'll drop it right here. Oh no, that's not the link to this tweet. That's the link to the tweet. If you are listening and you have not liked that tweet, you currently have a 1 in 18 chance of winning everything Marching Orders ever put out. I would highly recommend you go like that tweet. So I love this section in the back. There is the turn reference, which is a rogue's turn. It literally breaks it down 1, 2, 3, exactly what you can do. A list for the enemy's turn. And then the helpful hint is really, really fantastic. There is a graphic that shows the marching order and battle line. And then some fun, helpful hints. Because I asked this question earlier in the interview. It says, like, are there any easy to miss rules? There's literally a list of them here, helpful hints. You spend luck on any die roll, literally any fucking thing, and as many as you want. Going into Dell, figure out how far you can go before half your torches are used up. That might be a good time to turn around. Right? If the text says make a roll, it does not do damage. It only applies the effects listed. It has to say attack roll in order to do damage. Keep a bookmark or two handy while you play. It'll save you some aggravation because you're flipping through a delve, like a game book, like a choose your own adventure or a choose your own path thing. Choose your own adventure is a copywritten term. So that's why people say, like, potentially choose your own path or game books is what a lot of times they're called. When in the condition and cooldown phase, conditions take effect before the dice are reduced. Torches have 4 use slots before they're expired, except for the torchbearer. If you run out of torches, 2d6 to leave. And unless otherwise stated, it takes, for items, unless otherwise stated, it takes an action to use it. That's the book. That's the whole thing. This is the back. We did it. Woo! Okay. Now I get to do the score all by myself because Hunter is a sick boy. So let's go to that, and I will beat myself up over it as we go through these things. So for those that have never seen this or heard this before, this is the score card. Again, this is just like a general I don't know. It's a scorecard. You know, but look at the parts that are really important to you in the game, and then look at the overall value and stuff like that, or the overall score to look at it. And, you know, this is, don't pick it apart too much, but there's 5 scores that are each worth 10 points. We have 5 categories. So there's art and style, which talks about the quality, quantity, consistency, you know, of the art in the book, the style in which it's used. Then there's layout and function. So how pretty the layout is and stuff like that falls under kind of art and style more. Layout and function is like readability of the book, and function as far as like tools, right? Physical books with bookmarks, things like that, or ribbons, and PDF tools with bookmarks, hyperlinks, inline hyperlinks, color coding, all that kind of stuff. That's layout and function. Rule set and crunch is if it's a unique rule set, is it good? If it's an adapted rule set, how well is it adapted? Crunch is, does it feel like the right amount of rules for the game, right? Do you feel overburdened by the amount of rules that exist in it? Does it claim to be rules light, but is 600 pages long? Those kind of things. That's rule set and crunch. Originality is just, in general, all of these things, how different does it feel from something else? Can you name 4 other games that are just like this, just slightly different? Or does this feel completely unique? And value is bang for your buck, really. It's not just how much the books cost, but how much content is available. Like, if you just get one book and that's all you can do, there's not a whole lot of replayability. Are there third-party licenses? Are there... what else do we normally get for the value? I mean, it's those kind of things. It's what you get for the money that you spend, and how much is available for you to keep the game going with, right? That's value. So, starting with art and style, I think this is the first time I've had to do this by myself. Because I think even in Merkborg, Jason was here. So let's talk about art and style. First of all, I love, again, my background is the cover. This is Mustafa Bakir. All the stuff from Mustafa is perfect for the game, right? Absolutely love it. A couple of things with the art. I mean, there is some public domain stuff used. There is some stock art used. That's not necessarily a knock. I mean, art's expensive. We all know that. But the Mustafa Bakir stuff feels really feels like the game, and it would have been really cool to see, in a perfect world where money is not an option, Mustafa Bakir art through the entire thing. I love that all of the characters have a piece of character art from Mustafa, but they're pretty small. If there was a way to have, like, I mean, it would have expanded the book by fucking 20 pages. But I think even like the monster, for the few that did have art, because the monsters don't all have art, but like I think the Goblin Lord didn't it? I'm just scrolling back up. You guys can't see, but you can assume what I'm doing. Yeah, the Goblin Lord and the Direwolf piece of art, they're like a third of a page tall. Oh, monsters all have art on the cards. That's right. Yeah. I mean, you can even see the monstrous imp. Come on, don't do that. On the cover there. In the book itself, though, all of the character references, the character art is pretty small for like the rogues. It would have been nice to see those a little bit bigger, because they're great pieces, but again, I think a lot of that comes down into like layout and stuff like that. I mean, the book would be a lot bigger if you had like full page pieces. But like I said, for example, going back real quick, like the torchbearer is a pretty small piece of art considering the entire page. But the stat blocks themselves are pretty big. I don't know. It'd be hard to get it to fit. But in a perfect world, it would be a bigger piece of art. What we often do is compare to other games. A lot of this is done. I always say this, like in relation to things that came before it. So sometimes scores will change over time, because we might give something an 8 and then realize later that that's actually better than we thought, or we might give it an 8 and realize that there are ones better. That doesn't happen a lot. We tweaked some of our early games a little bit as we adjusted our scores, because originally they started out as worth each of these worth 5 points, and it didn't have enough of a swing to really make a difference. So talking about art and style, so looking at some of the other games we've done, so Red Giant got a 7 because there just wasn't a ton of art in the book. The original Mothership, love Sean McCoy with art in the original book. I mean, while I liked it, there wasn't a lot of it. 12 Years, This kind of does remind me of 12 Years a little bit. There's not necessarily a ton of art in the book. Like I said, a bunch of it is stock art and things like that, besides the monsters and the cover. The cover is absolutely fucking gorgeous, though. I feel like this is when I need Hunter. I'm gonna scroll through real quick. I feel like a lot of the art pieces feel a little bit more layout too, like some of the stock art that's used to like page filler and things like that. I do like that there's not like a bunch of blank empty spaces. It's all filled. Let's go. I mean, I think even the cover by itself between the two books really gives the points up. We're going to go with a 7 for art on this. Score numbers. Because I think, you know, if you take off the Mustafa Bakir stuff, oh, let's tweak that. I think it's pretty straightforward, like 5, like just bang average as far as using things like the stock art and stuff like that. But as soon as you add in that, and then all the art that's on the cards and things like that, you definitely got to give some points for that. So layout and function, we've talked about this already. I mean, hyperlinks, bookmarks, inline hyperlinks, fantastic. So the only book that ever got a 10 so far is Troika. You know, I have my opinions about Troika, but one of the things that I love about it is it's got all of those things, and each section is color coded. Like the pages themselves are different colors, and every single page in the top left or top right will take you back to the beginning of that chapter or back to the table of contents. I mean, it's fucking perfect, right? The one after that, I think, that got a 9 was Death in Space, actually, because it had all of those things, even color coded sections, just didn't have those links to the top and bottom. So I think this has to be an easy 8. Because it's got just about everything I possibly want from layout outside of that. And in the physical book, it doesn't have, you know, like bookmarks or things like that to bump it up by any more points. But as far as the PDF itself, it's got pretty much all the resources you could possibly want for the like digital tools, you know. Bookmarks, hyperlinks, inline hyperlinks. Do I want to? I'm trying to think of some other ones. Yeah, we'll go with 8. I was gonna say just a couple of things that would you know, I don't know if it would bump it up. It wouldn't bump it up a point, but you know, if we did like points, right? If this was like an 8.2, go like an 8.5, is just the things that I pointed out about the URLs and email addresses being hyperlinked as well. That would be if I got nitpicky with it. So rule set and crunch. I really enjoy this rule set. I think it's super clean. It's super straightforward. I mean, so when you first look at you know, the stat block for the characters, there's a lot of stuff to track, right? But it's all laid out in front of you. But if you look at a good guy, you got physical, defense, health, magic, tinker, aware, escape, luck, resolve, all of those things. But again, I mean, this is I'm gonna crack open this, the box that we're still giving away. Remind me to actually give this away. I think these are, oh, so here's a rogue card, right? So this is an alchemist, okay? Everything you need is literally written out on the card. You get a piece of character art in the middle, right? You get the 8 things that you keep track of, 4 on one side, 4 on the other. And then you get, it says alchemist across the bottom. So again, this is a gamier game. It's a game, right? So having the cards there, it's not like you're filling out like a character sheet and you have to keep track of all of these things. You just reference the card associated with the character. So it's not that much actually to keep track of. And the things that are important to keep track of are important for the game, like your torch and things like that. Always to do. So I don't think it is by any stretch of the imagination too crunchy. I think it actually feels really light. Like if you actually go to I mean, half the book is monsters and stat blocks and stuff like that. And it's only like a 100-page book. I think it's like right around 50 pages when we got to like the appendices and references and stuff like that. So I really enjoy it. I mean, the fact that it's very easy to do solo or co-op, and realistically, nothing really changes if you do that, is really fantastic. The fact that really all you need is 1d6 to play the entire game, I fucking love that. There's not really anything in the rules where I went, I'm not a huge fan of this part, but there's plenty of things in the rules where I was like, I fucking love that. Like, the bullshit dice is fantastic, and I like that, like, player turns really are just like 3 things, right? Conditions and cooldowns, your action, your bullshit, and you go. I mean, I think it's a really solid rule set that could really, I'm surprised there aren't hacks of this already. Like, I'm actually genuinely surprised because I feel like it's a super clean rule set. If you got rid of everything, right? I mean, look at the turn reference in the back. Like, you could really scrape this down to 20 pages at its core, right? There's a third-party license. But if there was like a straight up SRD, like, it would not be very long. You could reskin this or tweak the rules any way that you want. And as James is saying, like, someone hack this shit. I mean, it's super fucking hackable. And I want there to be a revolution in solo adventure games, just like there was in solo journaling games, right? Like Wretched and Alone and all these other solo games, fantastic, right? But I don't always want to just write from prompts, right? Like, my ADHD does not really let me sit down and do that a ton, right? I would rather just go kill monsters sometimes. So let's get more of those. But as far as this goes, rule set wise, I really, really dig it a lot. We're gonna go, let's go. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give this a solid 8 for rule set and crunch. It feels like, looking at other games that I feel the same way about that aren't similar, there's Gun and Slinger is an 8, Nova's an 8, the original Mothership is an 8, Red Giant's an 8. I feel like that feels good right there. Originality. Okay, so we have to look at the whole picture, right? It's a dungeon delving game. How many dungeon delving games are there? More than you could possibly fucking imagine, right? Is this one done in a fun, different, interesting way? Absolutely, 100%. It feels really good. I like that it's solo and co-op, like we said. One of the other really fun solo or co-op. Ooh, I gotta shut the fuck up and get done soon because I gotta go to work. Solo co-op games of 12 years. I absolutely love 12 years. Love Max Moon. It's really great. What did 12 years actually get on originality? Because this reminds me of that a little bit. So 12 years got an 8. And I feel similarly about this. Like, it's a fun adventure solo game. We're gonna go ahead and give this an 8 as well, right? And let's unhide that. And value wise, okay, so depending on when you get it and where you get it, right? If you get the core box set, it's like $50, right? If you go to Indiegogo right now, you can get everything that's in this box for $69. So it depends on when and where you get it, but I think for a box set with 2 books and cards and all that kind of stuff, $50 is a great fucking deal. It's I mean, a lot of books, like standard for a 100-page softback, probably around like 30-ish bucks, right? 25 to 30 bucks. Hardback like 35 to 40 for 100 pages. But you get the cards, you get 2 books, you get it in a sweet box, right? It's like $50. It does have a 30, and like, you know, like Jacob just said, we got a bunch of support for it. So the entire Delver's Guide's a ton of delves. There's also Master of the Onyx Tower, which is a bigger delve. There's the Quick and Dirties and a bunch of other stuff that's going to be coming out from these guys. So value wise, it feels like a solid value. Again, there's a third-party license. There's continued support for it. I think man, what's another one that was similar to this? Death in Space was a great value. So if we start at like core 5, right? We add third-party license stuff on that. You know, there it goes to 6. We add a lot of bonus. There's a lot of support for the game. We go for a 7. And if we go for just like the cost of the games and stuff itself, it is a great value for the cost. I mean, a $50 box set with 2 books and a deck of cards in it is a fucking fantastic value. So we're gonna go with another 8 on this one right here. I can't really ask for a whole lot more. And that's where we're at. And yeah, someone said if you go to Indiegogo right now, that all-in-one price is amazing. $69. So I suck at math. So let's math real quick. We got 7 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. That's going to give us a 39. Oh, that was okay, Janelle. So that is our total score. Is we're gonna go to a 39. No, you're fine. So the Quick and Dirties is actually is part of the campaign that they're running right now on Indiegogo. That's it. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and actually do the giveaway now. 39, solid score. Really like I said, huge fan of this game. Really excited to play it. The Mustafa Bakir's art is fantastic. Like I said, I think really the only place that I would really again, if all things were perfect, yeah, Janelle definitely, I think, flagged that as spam. I think the only thing that I would really tweak is if there was just more Mustafa art throughout the entire book instead of using the stock art. That's the only thing that in a perfect world would really just bump this up even more so. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the giveaway real quick. Let me bring up a page real quick right here that has, what can I go to? Let's go to this one. And I will bring up can you bring up the, yes, that's what I want. Okay, so there are currently 18 entries in here. This is the old tweeter, right? So what I'm gonna do is we'll start bottom to top because that is the order in which people liked it, right? We'll go bottom to top. I'm gonna go to a random number generator. This will go numbers, one number from 1 to, it'll be 18, but let's test this out a little bit. Let's go with 35. Okay, it gave me 2 numbers twice. Not a fan of that one. Best random number generator. Random number 1 between 1 and let's go with 69. Go. See, this bugs me. I got the same number like 3 times between 1 and 69. All right. Okay. So we're good here. All right. We're going to go between 1 and 18, starting from the bottom and going up. I'm going to hit start, hit stop, and then that person's going to win this. So here we go. Starting right now. All right. James, you say when to stop. When I see it in chat, I'll stop. $16. All right. So we'll start from the bottom and go to the top. Number 16. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That is Neon Relic, the Archaeomancer. Won everything. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. Neon Relic won. So I actually know Neon. So I will shoot them a message on Discord. Let me write that down. Oh man, I'm running out of post-it notes. And then I will get that sent out. I think that's going to be international shipping too, so that's fun. So that's it. That's the score. That's the game. And as I said, I got to get out of here because I got to leave work in 10 minutes. That's going to be fun. Again, James, Crumbling Keep, Brad, like all you guys, thank you so much. It was a great day. Really appreciate it. Hopefully I don't have to do this solo again. And hopefully Hunter feels better for next week. We'll announce what happens next week. If you're listening, we are the Weekly Scroll. You can find us on the.weekly.scroll on Instagram. I promise I will update that at some point. We are the Adventure Archive on YouTube, and we're weekly_scroll on Twitter for as long as Twitter exists. You guys have a wonderful day. I will see all of you guys some other time. Have a good night. Bye.